My name's Paul Gibbs. I was appointed as project manager and cost consultant. I work for Pick Everard.
My name's Richard Cobb. I work at Pick Everard. I was appointed as NEC supervisor and M&E services technical advisor.
My name's Andy Rich. I work for a company called Jeekins Weir and I was the contracts manager on the splash pool works.
My name's Phil Bluck. I work for Jeekins Weir as the quantity surveyor.
I'm Chris Tye. I'm the group operations manager for Aspirations Wellbeing, who run and operate this facility.
Pick Everard operate on a national basis with regional offices, up to 8 or 10 regional offices. We've got a growing London contingent with about 40 to 50 staff, but nationally we operate with about 450 staff.
Jeekins Weir were the main contractor, so we oversaw all the works during the period of the contract.
Being the operator of the facility, I obviously knew a lot of the mechanical workings and vital information that was crucial as part of the project team to enable it to run smoothly and give them the information that they needed to know from our perspective as an operator.
Prior to the SCAPE, we haven't really dealt with much of the NEC project, but SCAPE obviously enforces that, so and it seems to be working well.
It's a splash leisure pool. It's owned by East Northamptonshire Council. It's 20 years plus old and recently underwent a refurbishment project. East Northamptonshire Council is one of 3 facilities that they own and operate within the district, and it's the oldest. Other 2 centres had already undergone some refurbishment works in the last 2 years, and this was the only site that hadn't had any money at the time allocated towards it. So enabled to keep the facility operational and running for more years, the council wanted to free up some funds to get some crucial work done.
Within an 8-week period over the summer holidays and 2 weeks beyond, we had to drain the pool, make good the grouting and tile into the pool area. We had to replace the air handling units.
There wasn't an impact on the project if there was any delay, because that would impact on all the local community children's lessons, school swimming lessons, and it would incur a cost of a considerable amount to the local authority.
During the project, there was the defects were rectified, so when we at completion there was no defects at all. The project was completed. The final count was agreed the day before handover meeting as well. So we completed on time, on budget, defect free, and the final count agreed the day before handover, which is a complete unknown.
I personally enjoy the project. I loved working with the team. I think it ran smoothly in the end. It had problems, but we overcome those together. The client was exceptional as a client. They took on board any changes that needed to happen, and it worked well.
The client was involved in all the decisions we made. We're using Cypro in the early warning process so basically every time an issue was raised, we agreed with the client what the best way forward was, and so they were involved in all the decisions with the contractor as well. So it was very much a team effort from start to finish, and a challenging project but thoroughly enjoyable, and one we'll look back on with pride.
The NEC contract was the only portal to allow that to happen, and I haven't worked on a project since that's finished on time, on budget, without any snags.
I think some of the key drivers for the project is the fact that everyone did work so collaboratively and together. The NEC former contract definitely helped that. I think without it we would have still got the end result, but maybe with increased costs and delays. So it was a hard job. There was a lot of things that came up that we weren't foreseen, but everything was dealt with very, very quickly and professionally. And the NEC helped that definitely.
I think the difference between this project and some of the other projects I've worked on previously is the willingness for all parties to free up their diaries and get round a table as soon as possible, knowing the deadlines and the issues, and we did have hurdles to jump on this, and solutions were found rapidly. The project was a great success, and I believe that all parties were very, very happy, and the client got what the client wanted in the end.
This is probably about my 5th or 6th project that I've worked on in terms of leisure facilities and improving them. This one was far the easiest, and the relationship between the project team and all parties involved was really good and was easy to work with. Yeah, the Chief Executive, both of the Council and the Chief Executive of Aspirations Wellbeing as well, had discussions about how crucial this facility was in the district. It's the only swimming pool that's within East Northamptonshire. of this size and of this catchment area to attract people. Being a leisure pool, there's not very many of those about these days, so it is a really well used facility that attracts lots of swimmers to it. Yeah, I think the quality finish that we've got of the facility is what was needed with what was available to use. So we've fitted everything in that could best fit within the funds available, and we've resulted in a really good refurbished project which the local community are happy with and still continue to enjoy the facility.
Jickinsware, the contractor, raised an early warning notice during the project, advising us that their supplier was having difficulties sourcing a heat exchanger and some filter media, which were basically it was being sourced from Italy. It was during the 2-week shutdown, so we weren't able to phone anybody in Italy to try and make amends.
We organised a meeting on site to discuss the issue. Everyone got around the table with the client, the contractors and ourselves. We discussed the issue. It became apparent that we couldn't source the heat exchanger from Italy in the time frame allowed, so we looked for alternative solutions, one of which was an alternative supplier. We all went away from the meeting looking at alternative suppliers, and I think Jenkinsware came up with an alternative. Good communication between all parties, actually. During that risk mitigation meeting, there was the contractor, Jenkinsware, Pick Everard's, the client and the subcontractors, and we all got together. Knowing what we had to do, we went away and we sourced the heat exchanger, which actually became more efficient than the existing heat exchanger.
So the original subcontractor that was down to supply both the heat exchanger and the filter medium couldn't deliver. We collaboratively got around a table, put out early warning notices, discussed the wares and how we could get around it basically. We split the package in fact, so we went out to two different suppliers, one for the medium, one for the heat exchanger. Both came in slightly under budget for a better performance. The heat exchanger in fact was a better performing heat exchanger, so therefore brought the temperature of the pool up quicker.
Our perspective as the operator, we obviously had an input to the project team about how crucial it was for that particular element of the heat exchanger to be working. Any delay on that would cause an ongoing delay in terms of refilling the swimming pool up and some critical time frames that were required to get it to the right temperature to enable us to reopen. It takes approximately a 2-week period to refill, reheat and chemically treat it and make sure that everything's running smoothly.
2 weeks into the programme, we took down the original air handling units above the pool, and the subcontractor identified that the fire damper, which was in poor state of repair and it needed to be replaced. We'd been told by the contractor, they raised an early warning notice and advised that it was going to delay the contract by 6 weeks.
We left the meeting a bit dejected actually, because we hadn't got any solutions to mitigate the delay. It wasn't until I was walking around the site looking at general snagging and the works completed that I was standing adjacent the scaffolding. I realised that if the scaffolding was out of the water, that would allow the water to be filled up, commenced on time and heated to allow the programme to be completed on time. I called Paul back over and the team, the client and the contractor. We called the scaffolding contractor back over. This allowed a solution of being cantilevered above the water so that the scaffolding could be reconfigured to allow the fire damper to be installed, mitigating the 6-week delay it would have caused for the programme.
The consequences of not completing on time, there was no LEDs under the contract, so there was no penalty for Jenkinsware. However, that didn't affect the way they dealt with this in trying to help us resolve this issue. The council would have incurred costs of £12,000 per week in costs from the classes which had been arranged for the 2 weeks following the summer holiday. So it was a big relief when we came up with this initiative. There was an existing fire damper which sat at high level above the pool area. The contractor sent an early warning notice saying it was in poor condition and it needed to be replaced. And attached to the early warning notice was they were notifying that there was going to be a 6-week delay to the project. Delaying the project wasn't an option. There was significant cost the council were going to incur and it was also going to have massive disruption onto the classes which had been arranged. So we organised a risk mitigation meeting that day on site. We met up and talked about the options which were available to us.
The subcontractors found when replacing the ductwork, so they stripped down the existing ductwork and we found that there was a fire damper that was in a bad state and needed repairing or replacing. We couldn't repair it, so it had to be replaced. But this meant that there was going to be a 6-week delay to the project.
The foreman had a little look at how we could get over the fact that we currently got scaffolding in the pool. The pool needed filling up. This was a Friday. The pool needed filling up on the Monday, and we needed a solution. And needed a solution fast. We got the scaffolding involved. His contracts manager came out to site. A cantilever solution was discussed. It was found that it was viable, and it was put into action that weekend. So good collaboration between all parties was achieved, and the key drivers for this project were maintained.
From our perspective, working and giving information to the project team was the crucial element again of the time frames involved to get the swimming pool reopened, and whatever solution we could work to enable us to at least start filling the pool, even if we weren't able to start heating it straight away. And through that working project and everybody coming together with a solution, that worked. Everyone had their input into that, from the project management, Pick Everard, the contractor on site, the subcontractors that were helping to come up with a solution to best fit everybody's needs. The last thing anybody wanted with a tight 8-week project was a further delay that would stop us from opening and incur additional charges, especially from the council perspective. The early warning notices were flagged up as soon as it became identifiable, and it was an unknown element that nobody could pick up on initially in the initial phases. So the team working together to solve that issue worked really well.
Well, we're given a certain area of tiling to be replaced, and another part of the works was to replace the lockers in the changing rooms. Jeekins Weir raised an early warning notice advising that the area of tiling included in the contract wasn't going to be sufficient because there was areas which were in poor condition, and we were tapping the tiling and you could see that it was likely to fall away in the future. They recommended that we replaced all the tiling, but the funds weren't available. So we looked as a team at the different options to try and generate some funds. We looked at the lockers. We were down to replace all the lockers in both changing rooms. And Jeekins Weir said that we could just replace the doors on the front because the actual lockers were structurally sound. We got a quotation in for that, and it was £20,000 less than the original budget for the whole, replacing all the lockers. So we repriced the tiling, and we were able to carry out all the tiling within the original budget, and the lockers still look fantastic.
Jeekins Weir were tasked with patch repairing and regrouting areas of the changing rooms. It soon became apparent that this was really not the way forward. There were lots of what we would call live areas, hollow sections of tiling, and once we started to patch repair, or once we went down the route of patch repair, it wouldn't have worked. It just wasn't a viable option. Jeekins Weir raised early warning notice to Pick Everard. Again, good lines of communication in the first instance, then using the SitePro system, and then getting key stakeholders around a table to ensure that a solution was found. We also got involved, the subcontractor himself, got them to the table. They put across their views, and it was soon apparent that we needed to start from fresh. This in itself wasn't really a viable option because the budget just would not stretch. This was something that was key to this project budget. We did a value engineering as a team. We did a value engineering sort of exercise and realised that we could save £20,000 by only replacing the locker fronts and not the lockers in their entirety. The backs of the lockers were sound anyway, and that's kind of the way we went. Again, good open line of communication, quick quotations back from suppliers and uploading onto the system for all to see.
The earlier warning notices that were given on the fact that there was additional work required enabled us as an operator to actually offer up some elements of cost savings to the project team. So we did some additional works in those areas ourselves, which actually freed up money for the project to get the tiling done, which was crucial, especially as it was becoming evident there was more tiling to be replaced than first thought.
Chickens Weir raised an early warning notice advising that the benches had been over-ordered. There was 2 sets of benches ordered. This was not a variation of the contract, but it was a cost that the contract was going to incur. So it was an issue for us as a team to try and help mitigate these additional costs. So we met on site and tried to talk about the options. Could they be sent back? No, we couldn't do that. But Chickens Weir said we could potentially use the slats from the benches as the locker tops that we were also procuring separately, and the plinths at the bottom. I said, well, yes, we'll give it a go, we'll see what it looks like. So they went away and they did an area over one of the lockers. I came back the next day and looked at it. I couldn't tell it was a bench, but until you looked at the end, and you could still see the slats there. So I just asked, could you take the strip, take it round to the side of the as well, and they looked at it. It looked absolutely fantastic.
Chickens Weir had to replace the benching and the cubicles within the changing rooms. It became apparent when we started fitting that there was an over-order. There was an overlap on our order and the client's order that related to the helmsman front lockers, giving us 2 sets of benches. We were already looking for a solution to locker tops and locker plinths, which had come out too expensive and out of budget. We looked into this, we raised early warning notices, we let the client know, Pick Everard know that we'd got an over order and that there was going to be a cost that Chickens Weir would have to swallow. We suggested that the solution for the locker tops may well be solved by using these additional benches.
Again, the project team were already working on a solution for the locker tops following a redesign. Originally the lockers were due to be completely replaced, and we identified some savings by doing a partial locker refurbishment rather than a full locker refurbishment. Therefore that freed up some additional funds for the project. We needed to find a solution to the tops of those lockers, and it made a sufficient sensible option to go and use the over-ordered items rather than go and source anything additional, and it didn't compromise the actual finish of the facility, it actually complemented it.